The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you were able to find the link okay and get accessed and that you're seeing me and hearing me successfully. You should also be able to see a PowerPoint at this point. So hopefully that is all working well for you. Just really want to say thank you for being here today. We really appreciate you taking the time on this, what is probably a very busy day for you. So we appreciate that. My name is Ben Murray, and I am the Director of Contracts and Client Relations for Catharsis Productions. What that means is that I basically oversee all of the work that we have coming in terms of our contracts with colleges and universities and military installations and corporations and things like that. And I just make sure that we can do what we agreed to do, and then make sure that we actually do what we agreed to do, is the kind of big picture macro description of my job. And so I wanted to come here today and take some time to thank you and explain what we're going to do today and why we're doing that. And then we're going to have two of our wonderful senior educators do a demo of sex signals for you so that you can kind of understand what that looks like in a virtual setting. Some of you may be pretty familiar with it in person and be wondering, well, how can you make this funny improv show happen over the computer? But as we've learned, there's a lot of things that we can do over the computer now that we didn't realize we could before. But before that, I just want to say thank you for being here, because this is a bizarre time in our world. Obviously, there's a lot going on in terms of feelings with the pandemic and COVID and how that's impacting our lives, both from an economic perspective, but also a social perspective, and just all of the perspectives that are being impacted by COVID. In the meantime, we're obviously having a resurgence of understanding of what it means to treat other people besides us with the same equality that we treat ourselves, right? And so we're looking at police brutality, we're looking at lack of accountability for that, and we are looking at how we want our society structured. And then also we're looking at Supreme Court decisions that are impacting people's rights, both in the workplace and in living in this country. And so just a lot of overwhelming things happening at once. And in some ways, those seem unrelated. To me, they seem pretty related, because when I think about them, I think about all of them being about taking care of people, right? So whether we're talking about a hospital and health.
Living online now is that we get to enjoy these technical glitches in real time. But once Ben is rejoining us, then we will have him answer a few more questions or get us queued up. There you are. He's back. Awesome. Yay.
All right. So I apologize, everybody. This is one of the beautiful things we're figuring out as we go. And working from my shed in my backyard is complicated. Anyway, taking care of people, taking care of Wi-Fi, also taking care of people is kind of where we were talking about and where we landed. And it can be difficult for us, even though we do interpersonal work and social justice work for a living. I think even on, a regular basis, I kind of get frustrated with like, man, all this important big stuff is going on in the world, and here I am worried about my Wi-Fi connection. But the reality is all of it's taking care of people. And that's why you're here today. You folks are here today because you want to take care of people, right? You want to take care of your students. You want to make sure that students get the information they need as they begin their school careers and this next stage of their life, and want to make sure they get what they need in order to function properly in our society and in your school system. And that says a lot. And so we really appreciate that you are here to make sure your students get the best. This would be a very easy time for you to phone it in. This would be a very easy time for you to just put some kind of a worksheet together and just be like, just go with it, because everything's madness and everything's bananas right now. But you're not. You're sitting here on this webinar, you're going, is there a better way? Is there something I can do? And clearly you're taking that seriously. So we really appreciate that. So where we are now as a society, as Catharsis, as folks who try and provide you some great programming, is that we are in a place with COVID where everything is wild, right? Anthony, can you get the next slide? Appreciate it. Everything is wild, right? We have COVID is impacting us in all these incredibly unpredictable ways. None of us understood that the Zoom stock would rise as much as it has. None of us understood that we wouldn't be able to see each other for long periods of time. So it's just impossible to predict that. And a lot of schools are having trouble still making any decisions. Maybe you're in that boat, right, where your administration isn't comfortable making a decision yet because they're worried about health, but they're also worried about their enrollment numbers because students are holding back on those things. And so nobody knows what the budget's going to be. So there's a lot of complications surrounding that. And we realize that that's a difficult place to be in. We also realize that there are some difficult restrictions around physical spacing. So maybe some people are coming back to campus, but they're coming back in such small numbers that we can't revisit traditional programming the way we have before, where we have 200, 300, 400 people in a room at any given time. And that's a bummer because that's kind of part of the fun of orientation, right? That's part of the fun of students coming from all these different parts of the state or all these different parts of the country and experiencing college for the first time. To not be able to be together is a disappointment. And so there are restrictions placed around that. There are restrictions placed around all kinds of things that we are doing and meeting. Sometimes some folks are starting school earlier to make room for the schedule later on down the line. And so it's just a little complicated. But in the midst of this, what we're finding is that we do have a new appreciation for online alternatives, right? We're doing more things online, not just watching Netflix, but we're doing more things online than we ever have before. And that's the beauty of the age we live in terms of technology and things like that. And, we at Catharsis are trying to change pace. We've done some online training programs before, but we're certainly looking to accommodate that in the best way we know how. So you may be familiar with something we have called You Got This, which is very much an online training. It is a self-guided kind of software-based training that people can do at any point at any time. If you're interested in that or you want to talk about that, you'll see some info at the end of this presentation. You're welcome to give me a call or give me an email about that, and we can talk about that. But what we're talking about today is the thing we do the most, which is our in-person live training that we are now converting to virtual. So this orientation season, so basically, kind of now through at least Labor Day, we are only going to be doing virtual programming. All right. So anything that would have been in person, we are not doing. There's a few reasons for that. The reality is that most of it's about safety, right? We can't guarantee the safety for y'all as our educators bounce from hotel to airport to rental car, and we can't guarantee the safety of our educators, which is very important to us. And so we want to make sure that we're doing this in the safest way possible. But we still, we're in a good place in terms of what we can do, right? So what will remain about our programs and what will be the same that you're used to is we'll still be very engaging. We're still going to be interactive, right? This is stuff that we will all have always been doing. We will always continue to do because we know that things are more effective when these programs are more effective when students can engage with them, when they can learn from each other, when we can have facilitated conversation, peer-to-peer learning. We know from the research that that's important. So we will be engaging, we will be interactive, we will be accessible. We will be answering questions directly from students. We will be responding to things they say. We will not be doing a lot of canned material. I mentioned the research. We are
Hey, y'all. So it seems like, hi, Ann, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So it looks like Ben is having some trouble in his he shed out in the yard. So Ben, it seems like you might keep running into these issues. So yeah, do you want Ben and I?
I'm gonna let you finish. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all finish it up.
Awesome.
Okay.
So yeah, do you want to finish and then I can talk about what changes?
Yes, perfect. So we were talking about this idea that everything we do is research supported. We will continue to have that approach with all of our online programs, certainly with Tech Signals, looking at the best research at how to empower students to step in. We always focus on moral reasoning, and that will absolutely continue to make sure students are armed to think about how to approach ending sexual assault from a moral and ethical lens. And finally, we really focus on going beyond checking a box, that we want this to be a program where students really feel like they're being armed with tools, and it's not just about fulfilling Title IX guidelines. It's about giving your students so much more.
Absolutely. And so Ann and I have actually been a part of this process all this summer, or actually we started really in March with this process of figuring out the world is changing. This could potentially be extending into the fall. So we have been working on figuring out how do we bring the technology that we have to bear when it comes to having these conversations. So we're using this platform that we're using today called GoToWebinar. We have found that it is really a great way for us to use polling, to be able to be interactive, to keep things anonymous with our students so that we're able to have a truly candid conversation that brings us into their living space, their hopefully not their bathroom space, but whatever. But we are able to transport ourselves and more importantly, engage and have this conversation. Some adjustments have been made to our programs. We have looked at the research. We need to keep them tighter because we know this from doing in-person programs. The booty alarm starts to go off at about an hour. And we know that is true, very true when it comes to online programming. We also are going to be having a supporting staff. So Ann and I, if we are the educators who are delivering sex signals, we would also have someone who's behind the scenes, kind of like if Ben, his internet was to go out and Ann and I would be able to pop on and take over and still keep the conversation going. We are having those tools available to us as well. Also, those folks can help answer questions that maybe Ann and I don't have time to focus on in the moment, or if there are, forbid, trolls, that someone would be able to speak to that as well. In terms of audience setting, some schools are looking at all kinds of different ways, whether it's students in their own dorms, in their own home spaces, or coming together perhaps in smaller groups where they can socially distance and have maybe one person at the computer or on their phone typing in answers for their whole group. In capacity, we do want to keep this, to I think roughly 250, I believe is a sweet spot number. But Ben, of course, would have to answer a little bit more to the specificity of numbers and capacity. We do have capacity for more, but we want to make sure that we are able to fully engage your students in a way that is actually conducive to them being an interactive part of this. So yeah, so that's the biggest changes. Anne, can you think of anything else?
No, it's still really fun, y'all. We're really excited.
Absolutely.
Because just like the sex signals that you're used to, if you've been having us coming to your campus, we're still going to talk about all of the cultural messaging that we receive about gender, about privilege, about sexuality, sexual health, and intimate relationships. And even online, you're going to see improvisation and humor and our unique education style with facilitated dialogue, audience interaction, and looking at dating, alcohol, sex, and of course, consent. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is change the way that these students think, that we really want to encourage bystander intervention, have them think about how they can best communicate, whether it's a romantic relationship, sexual relationship, friendship relationship, so that they're really thinking about how they want to interact with the other folks on their campus, and both online or offline. I think something we're really excited is we're aware of the time that we're living in, that there's a lot more of this interaction where we got a screen between us. And so we also want to address that things like consent and respect and mutuality are still essential, even when we're talking about being in online places together.
Absolutely. It really drives towards this idea of how do we go from people who are interacting with one another via Zoom, or once we are back in person, how do we go from just being community members to actual upstanders, people who stand up for one another, who see something wrong, see that we are all part of this together and that we have to get off our butts and do something about it. That's always the core message that we leave audiences with. And we want to make sure that whether we are leaving them digitally with that message or in person, that we still are driving to that. So, before Ann and I sort of kick off a little bit of a demo of the program, we just want to talk a little bit about the logistics of how this works. You'll notice some of you already have used the control panel, the orange tab, as you see in this little picture here. It pulls up your control panel. we don't use the raise hand feature. We're using the questions box. Some of you have already used it to point out that Ben was frozen. And we appreciate that. We need to know those sorts of things. But that's where Ann and I, we will ask a lot of open-ended questions, and that's where we can hear responses. The beauty of this is it keeps it anonymous. We know who's saying it, but no one else does. So it allows, and we've seen even in the programs that we've delivered online so far, it has allowed students, and they've already commented how it makes them feel they are able to be a lot more candid in their response. So we really appreciate that. We also appreciate letting audience members know if you want to tell us you find us funny or cute or whatever, especially funny, we need that for our egos, that you're allowed to tell us. And it also helps us to know whether this is a good shirt to wear or whether it's too busy. It's just all of those things we need to know, and we use the questions box to make that happen. And also you can make our faces as big or as small, the presentation as big or as small. What were you going to say, Ann?
Just a second, we're going to jump into giving you a little demo of pretty much the middle of the Sex Signals live web version. And so during the time on pretend 18-year-old starting college hat, we're going to have you participate in all these same logistical ways that Anthony just described.
Yes. First comment, great shirt. Loving this group already. You are already nailing it. Cool.
Anthony's heart is just through compliments, y'all. So you're doing a great job.
Yes. Alrighty. And let's do it. Let's jump in.
All right, great. So I'm Ann. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Anthony. Great shirt. I also use he, him, his as mine. And welcome to Sex Signals.
Sex. Are we talking about sex or relationships? Because people can hook up and not be in a relationship. Actually, y'all on the line, help us out. I'm going to send a poll. Can y'all tell us what a hookup even is? And so select one or more of the following. Is it sex? Is it making out? Is it going out for coffee with someone? Or is it that sweet hookup with free tickets where your friend who works at the movie theater sneaks you in? All right, I'm gonna give you 3, 2, 1. Thank you. And let's see these results. Ooh, all right. So I love this because people are like, well, it's mainly sex, but it could be hanging out. And then once in a blue moon, it could be going out for coffee, but it could also be that hook up with the tickets, especially right now if it's an e-movie. Okay, so clearly hooking up means different things to different people.
Okay, yes, but first of all, I also love that this group is sex means different things to different people. Everybody's got to be a part of these conversations. So true. And also, if people are involved, it's always some level of a relationship, whether it's 2 minutes or 20 years, it's always some relationship.
Okay, so help us out in the questions box. What are some things that make a healthy relationship good?
Yes. Good question.
Yeah.
Respect, yes. Mutual respect. We up in the ante. Communication. A lot of respect in this group. They're yes. Communication, exclamation point. Yes, honesty, listening, kindness, openness, open minds, expectation. Dang, this group they with it.
Yeah, this is awesome. All right, let's flip it though. What are some things that can make a unhealthy relationship bad?
Mm-hmm. We got to go there. Shame. Yeah, Brene Brown's got something to say about that though. Okay. I've been using my time, Ann. I've been using my time. I'm reading.
So happy.
Power imbalance, gaslighting, lack of truth, taking down someone or talking down. Yeah. Emotional and physical, all kinds of levels of abuse. Absolutely. It's hugely problematic.
Okay, so clearly a relationship, it can be really amazing, but it could also be a lot to deal with.
Sure. I mean, and that's all well and good for people who are even in relationships. What about just meeting someone? Your mind starts running a million miles an hour. Who is this person? What are they into? How do they identify themselves? How good's their Wi-Fi connection?
Yeah, truth. Yeah, it's like trying to read a book about how to ride a bike while already riding a bike.
Except the bike you're riding is another person.
Yeah, and unlike bikes, no two people can be ridden the same way.
Yeah, because like some people like to ride those bikes made for two, but because of social distancing, it's got to be like a really long bike.
Yeah, because look, there are people out there who are riding Harleys or mopeds or unicycles.
And don't get me started on people who don't want to wear a helmet.
Yes. Okay, Anthony, air high five. Wow, that was really dumb. So I love talking about kinky bike play with you, Anthony, but I think we were talking about people, and people seem to get caught up in like all sorts of stereotypes about sex and about gender.
Truth. All right, so let me ask men on the line, what have y'all been taught is the expectation of you when it comes to sex?
Great question. Get it? All right. Pretty straightforward there. All the time. Okay.
That's the follow-up. Get it. When? All the time. All right, cool.
Dominate.
Okay.
Ooh, his to try, yours to deny. So like men are supposed to try to get it, women are supposed to be like standoffish. Someone's saying that the guy is always supposed to be the initiator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the first move. Always make the first move.
That message, I love it. It's like hit it or quit it, get it. Like it's like this. Men always have to be wanting sex, going after sex, and if they don't want it or they haven't had a lot or whatever, they're people come at them with all kinds of sexist, homophobic crap, right? It's like they're violating some bro code or whatever.
Yeah. And then if someone doesn't even identify as a man or a woman, feels like our culture still really tries to put us in these categories. So what have women been taught about sex? Tell us in the question box.
I love someone even pointed out like that one response that was like, this person said, as a cis woman, that they hear those messages that are towards men as well, that like it's like you are supposed to be waiting, like a lady in waiting type of old-fashioned sense. Absolutely. And someone points out it makes it confusing for people in the LGBTQ plus community on how to act or be in sexual relationships when they're either erased totally or the messages towards traditionally cis men and women are so messed up that women are being told they can't show that you want it or you'll be labeled this, like a negative word, whore, slut, whatever. Someone's talking about buying a cow, when the milk's free.
Which, as someone who identifies as a woman, there's just nothing I love better than a good woman as cow metaphor, Dang, y'all. So it sounds like for women, it's sort of like we're damned if we do, but we're also damned if we don't. That if a woman has sex, yeah, she'll get called a whore. She'll get called a slut. And if a woman doesn't have sex, some people might still try and call her a slut. And if a woman's raped, then they will call her stupid.
So as a woman, you're just taught, live in constant fear.
Well, it's not just women. I think queer folks, gender nonconforming folks, trans folks share some of these fears. It's just, there's not an alternative if we really want to be able to leave the house. Well, back when, that was allowed.
But that's more messed up bro code stuff that's telling, women, all men are assholes, and dudes, you can do whatever you want as long as you can get away with it.
Wait, so then are you saying that only cisgender men are bad and only women and queer folks are vulnerable, so we're just doomed? Because first of all, that leaves out some people. And I just think it's more complicated than these people are good and those people are bad.
No, I agree with that. I mean, no one wants to think that their friends could hurt them, but they might.
Dang. Well, welcome to college. Trust no one. All your new friends are conspiring to hurt you. And good night, everybody.
No, don't turn off your camera. No. I get it. This is real.
Yeah, really awful.
Okay. All right, let's do another scene, or a scene. All right, let's do a scene about how cultural expectations affect choices people make. You in?
Yeah, I'm in. Why don't I play a first-year student?
Okay. I will be an upperclassman then, someone who buys into this whole hit it or quit it mentality. So tell me in the questions box, what are some character traits this person would probably have?
Swagger, okay. Anthony, you're already
Getting into character. I'm putting it on. It's like a whole new shirt. Yes.
Dominating.
Okay.
Ooh, someone's saying maybe he doesn't have a lot of empathy. Sure.
Okay.
Always makes the first move. Maybe he uses alcohol.
Okay. A little harder over the internet, but yeah.
Doesn't listen to women. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Anne, the scene's going to be very one-sided. All right. Cool. So let's say that this one is like classes are going to be online in some form. So let's say that this is like a video chat for like a class project.
Awesome. Sounds good. And for everyone on the line, we really need your help with this one. So we're going to have you watch this next scene carefully. And if at any point you think that this scene crosses a line, we're going to have you type an X into the question box. And look, try not to get too distracted by our incredible acting.
Be good. Okay.
All right.
Dude, come here. Yeah, I'm about to FaceTime with that chick I was telling you about from my class. Yeah. Nah, I mean, she makes good grades, but today she's getting the D. She's about to log on. Yeah. No. I think I could get some news off her. Yeah, you want to see. Okay. Bet. Yeah. Get up. She's about to log on.
Hey, what's up? What are you stuck on?
Oh, right down to business, huh? Don't you want to know how I am?
Oh, sorry. How's it going?
I mean, kind of rough. This whole isolation's got me lonely. Only so much porn you can watch.
TMI. So do you have a question about the project?
Yeah. But can I ask you a couple questions first? Like, aren't you tired? This whole thing, want it to end so we can like meet in person?
Yeah, I mean, it would make working on projects like this way easier. So, is anyone else logging on? I thought this was going to be a group meeting.
Dang, girl, you seem a little stressed. I actually got the perfect cure for that. So you need a shot in one hand, and I got something special for the other. JK, I'm kidding. No, I mean, yeah, I don't know where people are. I guess they're having internet troubles or whatever. I like that shirt you got on. You wearing pants?
Yeah, I have pants.
Prove it. Let me see.
No.
I mean, show me something else. How about some hot pics? I seen your Insta. Add me on Snap.
Okay, this is weird. I have other homework to do, so if you don't actually need anything and no one else is showing up, I'm just gonna go.
Hey, if you're shy, I can send you something first. Check your phone. And
scene. Wow. I think we have to stop there, or else this group is going to break both the questions box and the internet. Thank y'all for all of those X's. Whew.
Yes. I love the mix between like lowercase and then extreme cap lock X's. Yes. So I'm sorry, first and foremost. Let me also say, can someone tell me in the questions box, when and why did you type X?
Great question. Immediately. Okay. So it sounds like the moment you started talking to like that friend or roommate off screen, people were like, this is messed up. Okay. Mm-hmm.
A little preamble, someone said.
Yep. The nudes. Yeah. So when he started talking about trying to get nudes. Ooh, and someone's pointing out too, like, my character was clearly not interested, clearly not receptive to your advantage. advances rather, and yet you ignored it and pushed on. And I think that's so spot on, that it was pretty clear my character was not into this, yet your character kept pushing.
Yeah. So I love that so many people are like, from the jump, when this imaginary roommate was like egging this on and not being like, yo, back off, that this is hugely problematic behavior. And just to sort of like put a pause on this, because I'm looking at time and perspective in mind. From this point in the program, we would continue having this discussion, looking at these sort of problematic behaviors and seeing when they're left unchecked and when they intersect with all of the other isms that we know are present, that this type of behavior happens online or it happens on campus, and it can be hugely problematic. And those of you who have seen Sex Signals, don't worry, this still will progress to a scene in which a character is interviewed and asked a bunch of questions about a party in which a friend of theirs was accused of sexually assaulting, of causing harm to another student. And through that conversation, we are able to continue breaking down through facilitated discussion a series of different things.
Yeah, so by the end of the program, we make sure that we cover ideas around alcohol, ideas around consent, and we finish just like we do in the live version by talking a whole bunch about being upstanders, being people who step up and do something, whether it's online or in person. And just like we were saying when we were talking about our goals with this program, really making sure that students are walking away with ideas of what they can actually do to create the campus that they really want to live on, whether that campus is currently in person or online, really helping them understand that they have a stake in this, and doing it all with our signature Catharsis Productions humor and fun and engagement, more polls, more open-ended questions to just really make sure they're engaged for this whole hour-long program.
Absolutely. That was perfectly said, Anne. So I do want to let you all know that Ben is still on the line. So we would like to open it up to any questions that you might have, either about the program or about the logistics of bringing us.
Absolutely. And thank you all. I really appreciate that. And thank you for your composure and impressive improbability. Ta-da. See, you still get live theater and all the drama that comes with it. No, I appreciate that. And while everybody's kind of, typing in questions or thinking about things, what just happened with me and my kind of technology at home is something that we have kind of been concerned about or thoughtful about from a company perspective. And so it's something that we have a Chicago-based office, for those of you who don't know. And even though that office is closed right now, what we are doing is it's large enough that we are having kind of isolated rooms where we're having our tech company come in and make sure our internet's up to speed and in a good place where our presenters can come in kind of socially distant and still work with a consistent internet kind of point that they can work from and work with, and we can have non-distracting backdrops and things like that. So it's something that we've done some consideration because I'm not one of our presenters. My internet isn't as big of a concern, but that is something that we've thought about and we've kind of prepared for when orientation season hits and we get a good bit more busy. So having said that all, are there any questions that we can answer for you, both from a presenter perspective or from kind of an office, administrative perspective?
So the first question was, how long will a session be? And so we're still sticking to 65 minutes. Is roughly around the time, 65 to 70 minutes. I say that because, you always want to give the 5 minutes for especially with technology, for people to log in, make sure that their Wi-Fi is up to snuff.
Yeah. Well, before we had to wait for people to come in and out of the room. Now we have to wait for people to kind of log in and hear the little recording message and things like that.
Right.
I am seeing a question about whether there will be a mixture and opportunity for same-sex presenter representation during the program. That's not currently something we do. A lot of the stuff we're talking about are stereotypes and things like that are based in heteronormativity. And so at this point, it's still very important for us to show a male-identified person and a female-identified person and subtly kind of show how communication works really well with those two people. And kind of reinforce that messaging for folks. But that does not at all mean that our content does not address inclusivity in all its forms and various forms of privilege and oppression and all that stuff. So that's something that we certainly still speak to, even though our kind of presenters that are up there and kind of doing the scripting and the presentation will identify as male and female. A similar question about the ethnic diversity, and that is something that we try and model. There are certainly schools and institutions where that's more important than others. So if for some reason your institution is a place where you think that's especially important, we try and do it across the board, to be honest. But if you feel like that's especially important for your institution, please talk to us about that. We can try and schedule our folks in a way that we have a person of color presenting along with a white person, again, to kind of model that communication in a subtle way for folks to kind of see how that works and see where that equality and equity stands, like on stage, so to speak. So please talk to us about that. And then the follow-up part of that question, this is kind of a long question, but I appreciate it, is about sign language or options like that. So at this point, GoToWebinar doesn't allow immediate closed captioning on the screen. So what we can do is one of two things. First of all, we can record the session and we can send it to a third-party service to have it closed captioned. And then we can send you that link and you could send that to the students who would need that kind of accommodation. It's not as good because they can't participate live, but it is still something. And then the second option is we could actually have a sign language interpreter up on the screen. So much like right now you see Anthony and Anne and me, what we do in person is have somebody up signing on stage with our folks, and that could certainly happen on screen as well. We know some people, so we could provide someone, but if there's someone who works at the school who normally does that, we can also try and work with them to utilize that as well.
Just speaking to the ethnic diversity, last year, every single one of our teams that went out was mixed in terms of identities. And this year, in terms of all of our planning, that is as far as we can make that happen. That is our plan again. Ann and I train everybody as well as deliver our programs ourselves. And so that is something when we're crafting teams that we are putting out there, that's absolutely top of mind, is making sure that sort of representation is met. Because as Ben was saying, even if we aren't playing out a scene that is, we don't have, it's not like I'm going to pretend to be someone that I'm not. I also am not going to pretend to be someone I'm not in terms of my racial identity. And so all of those identities are brought to bear in our conversations. And so though we may not play out a scenario that is of two people of the same gender identity or gender, we are absolutely in every way, shape, and form talking about all identities in all of our programs. That's absolutely, I don't want anybody to ever fear that because they don't see something physically played out, that's not going to be discussed.
Someone also is asking about how we split time between talking about online versus in person. And we showed you a section of the script that is more talking about online presence, but if you've seen Sex Signals before, the structure of talking about a party scene at the end we've kept that. So we still really focus on also in person. We want to acknowledge the moment that we're in and arm them with tools, but a lot of what we talk about in online life is sort of underlining the idea of whatever happens online, those same ideas of consent and respect are what we're talking about in person. And so, yeah, I would say we actually probably talk a little bit more. We go the most in depth into that in-person party scene when we're talking about how to step in, how to support survivors, things like that.
Absolutely. Another question is about the 250 students per session. So if you've talked with one of our staff or if you've talked with our booking agency, Bass Schuler, you may have heard that 250 number thrown around. Previously, if you've had us in person, you know that we have an audience cap of about 400 people. And we do that to kind of split the difference between what is a good number for an active facilitated conversation and what's just realistic in terms of how many students y'all have coming through your doors that you got to get into one spot at one time. So 400 has been that kind of sweet spot before. We are honoring that with contracts we've already signed because we know people have made plans and they've made schedules around the idea of 400 students being able to do something at a given time and then be able to move on to the next thing. However, we don't feel like that's ideal, even in this circumstance, because there are a couple different mediums that we're working with. And so ideally, we would be at 250 or less. If you are in a situation as an institution where you have the flexibility with your schedule to say, well, we were going to have this presentation for 400 people, but we have time, we could do 2 presentations of 200, then we are happy to talk about that, and we will try as best as we can to make that cost effective for you in terms of, you know, us doing a second presentation. But if you have 350, 400 people, and that's what you planned on, and that's really what you have to do, we're okay with that. So the 250 is a strong recommendation, but it is not a requirement.
That also dovetails into another question that I read, Ben, about the moderator someone needed. That is why we are talking about having a third person that is from our company who will be moderating behind the scenes, to make sure that not only are we addressing technical needs, but also if a student is disclosing that they are triggered or that they need to talk, we are able to get them to resources or make sure that they are connected with the school counseling center, that, you know, all of that we will be knowledgeable about before the program, that we are able to pass them that phone number and whomever they could talk to there, or to a national resource like RAIN.
Yep. Awesome. I don't know about y'all, but I believe that is all the questions I am seeing popping up. Does anybody have anything else that they want to kind of throw in before we wrap up?
Oh, Ben, we just
okay, I'm seeing them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so could we have so somebody's asking about potentially doing an online version in the fall and then a live version in the spring. Absolutely. So something that we tend to do already is if somebody is booking more than one of our programs within a calendar year, so not necessarily within, they have to be January to December, but within a calendar year. So it could be August, October to October, whatever. We'll give discounts for that. So certainly talk to our booking agency, Bass Schuler, about that. Talk to me about that offline. And depending on the number of programs and how frequently those are, we can kind of talk about quantity discounts for that. Awesome. Excellent. Well, so y'all, my info is on the screen. My email, phone number is on the screen. You are welcome to send any questions my way. I really appreciate your time today. I very much appreciate Anthony and Ann not only delivering what they planned on delivering, but also delivering what I planned on delivering. We really appreciate that, and y'all's flexibility and understanding with that. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for caring about your students to the degree that you're really going above and beyond for them by spending time during your summer being on random webinars. And we really appreciate that. So have a great day, y'all. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll keep this going for another minute just so you can copy down this information.